The Widow, Episode 21. Rain lashed down, washing the city streets like tears from an angry sky. Isabella, the widow, was in her apartment, the heavy silence broken only by the relentless ticking of an old clock. A bouquet of black roses lay on the table, a mysterious and menacing gift. The memory of Ricardo's smile, her deceased husband, mingled with the unsettling feeling of being watched. Someone was following her, someone who knew her deepest secrets, and she felt a chill that came from within, far more intense than the icy rain outside. This someone wanted her dead, but why? What did they know that she didn't? The rain beat heavily against the windows, as if trying to enter and embrace Isabella in a cold, damp hug. Drops ran down the glass, forming tiny rivers that mimicked the tears that Isabella, without realizing, let roll down her face. She sat in the red velvet armchair, the same one where Ricardo, her beloved husband, used to sleep after a long day's work. The black roses, their thorns as sharp as the pain that tore at her insides, exhaled an intense and almost suffocating perfume. They were a warning, a silent scream in the midst of the storm, a scream that echoed the fear that had settled in her heart, a fear deeper and colder than the rain itself. Isabella clutched Ricardo's coat to her chest, seeking some of the warmth he radiated even in his absence. The soft fabric still held his scent, a familiar aroma that comforted her but also tormented her, because it reminded her of everything she had lost. The memory of his smile, his passionate gaze, his tender embraces, hurt her like a razor blade cutting her soul. A strange noise, a metallic scratching from the door, made Isabella jump. Her heart pounded like a wild horse. She grabbed the first thing she found within reach, a heavy bronze ashtray, and held it firmly, her fingers white with tension. With her heart in her throat, Isabella slowly approached the door, each step echoing in her ears like the roar of thunder. Her breath held, her senses on high alert. On the other side, a deathly silence. Only the fury of the rain still beat against the glass, trying to muffle the terror that settled in Isabella's heart. She hesitated for a moment, then, with slow and cautious movements, opened the door. No one. The staircase was deserted, shrouded in shadows and the mist of the rain that penetrated the doorway. But Isabella knew, deep down in her heart, that she wasn't alone. Someone was watching her, someone who knew her so well, who knew all her secrets, all her fears. Someone who was behind this macabre gift, the veiled threats, the constant chill that ran through her veins like a lethal poison. A poison that corroded her soul and threatened to extinguish her life. That was the mystery that haunted her, a nightmare that was becoming increasingly real. Why did they want her dead? What did Ricardo know that could threaten their lives? The memory of her last moments with Ricardo, the heated argument, the mysterious phone call, Ricardo's haste to leave that rainy night returned with force. A piece of the puzzle that refused to fit. Suddenly, a flash of memory, Ricardo's brother. Eduardo, the hateful look in his eyes, the secret obsession with Isabella. He never accepted their relationship, always displaying a morbid possessiveness, a hidden thirst for revenge. Was Eduardo behind all this? The possibility shook Isabella. Fear turned to anger, an anger that burned in her chest like embers. Isabella returned to the armchair, trying to calm her nerves. She needed to think. She needed to find the answers before it was too late. The old clock continued its relentless ticking, marking the fading time and the approach of imminent danger. But amidst the fear and uncertainty, a spark of hope. An unexpected encounter with a mysterious and charming man, Daniel, who seems willing to help, to protect her. Will he be the solution to her problems, or will he just be another player in this dangerous plot? An unexpected ally who can offer a helping hand or a new enemy in disguise? The rain outside was lessening, but the storm in her heart continued to roar. Isabella needed to make a decision, to trust Daniel or not, and to confront the enemy, whoever it may be. Isabella's life hung by a thread, and with each passing second, the threat became more real. Terror mingled with expectation, and hope fought against despair. The night was only the beginning of a long and dangerous journey. The journey of a widow who needed to unravel a deadly mystery before it was too late. The rain, which had previously fallen in torrents, now subsided, leaving behind the damp smell of wet earth. Isabella felt the fatigue weighing on her shoulders, but the unrest continued to gnaw at her insides. The black roses, still there, seemed to mock her fragility. She looked at them, each soft petal like a promise of death. each thorn a warning. The phone rang, the metallic sound cutting through the tense silence. The unknown number on the cell phone screen made her even more alert. Taking a deep breath, she answered. A raspy and menacing voice, distorted by a device, whispered, "The roses were just a warning, Isabella. You won't escape." The call dropped, leaving Isabella with a cold body and the certainty that she was in mortal danger. She needed help, and the image of Daniel, the man she had met the previous day, came to mind. Daniel was an enigma, a charming man with dark, penetrating eyes that seemed to see beyond her defenses. He had appeared in her life like an angel, offering support and protection amidst the storm. But was he trustworthy? Was he as good as he seemed? Doubt, a venomous serpent, coiled in her heart. Isabella hesitated for a moment. Her intuition screamed danger, but despair was greater. She needed to trust someone, and Daniel was her only hope. She typed the number he had given her, her hands trembling slightly. While waiting for the call to be answered, she watched the black roses, feeling the threat looming over her like a hungry crow. Daniel's voice, calm and gentle, greeted her on the other end of the line. He said he would wait for her at a nearby café, a discreet and safe place. Isabella dressed hastily, her heart pounding in her chest. As she left the apartment, she felt she was being watched, a cold gaze at the nape of her neck. She looked back, but saw no one. Was it just her paranoia, or was someone really following her? The café was empty, lit by a soft, cozy light. Daniel waited for her at a table near the window, smiling when he saw her. His dark eyes revealed concern and admiration. He seemed genuinely concerned for her safety, and his words reassured her. Daniel said he knew who was after her, that he knew the dark secrets of Ricardo's past. He promised to protect her and help her unravel the truth behind the threats. He spoke with conviction and confidence, but Isabella still couldn't let go of her doubts. However, during the conversation, Isabella discovered that Daniel knew Eduardo, Ricardo's brother, and knew of his morbid obsession with her. Daniel revealed that he possessed crucial information about Eduardo's past, including disturbing details of a violent past and involvement in shady businesses. Eduardo had dangerous connections with powerful and influential people, and this revelation left Isabella in a state of shock. The pieces of the puzzle finally began to fit together, forming a terrifying picture. As Daniel spoke, Isabella felt a knot form in her throat. The truth was more frightening than any nightmare. She was surrounded by a web of lies and betrayals, and with each revelation the danger increased. Suddenly, a black car pulled up in front of the café. Men in black suits quickly got out. One of them looked directly into the café, his eyes resting on Isabella. The atmosphere changed. The gentle and confident conversation was now replaced by the heavy silence of imminent threat. Daniel took Isabella's hand, his eyes showing firmness. He stood up, preparing to act. Escape seemed the only option, but the question hanging in the air was Daniel who he claimed to be, or was he just another piece of this deadly web? The truth, like the danger, was about to be revealed, and Isabella knew that her survival depended on a choice: to trust Daniel or to face the terror that surrounded her alone. The rain had stopped, but an even greater storm was about to break. The rain, which had previously fallen in torrents, now only dampened the streets, leaving a damp smell of wet earth. Isabella, wrapped in a thick coat, felt the cold penetrate her bones. But it was a lesser cold than the one that froze her heart. The black roses still there seemed to defy her, each soft petal like a harbinger of death, each thorn a threat. The phone rang, shrill and relentless, breaking the tense silence. An unknown number on the cell phone screen. Fear settled in, cold and sharp, like an icy knife. Taking a deep breath, trying to control the tremor in her hands, she answered. A raspy voice, distorted by a device, whispered, "The roses were just a warning, Isabella. You won't escape." The call was abruptly cut off, leaving behind an even heavier silence, laden with palpable terror. Isabella felt death looming over her, near, implacable. In the midst of that whirlwind of fear, the image of Daniel surfaced in her mind. A mysterious, charming man who had appeared as a light in the darkness, an enigma with his dark, penetrating eyes, which seemed to see beyond her defenses. Was he her salvation or another player in this deadly game? Doubt gnawed at her, a venomous serpent coiling in her heart, tightening more and more. She needed to decide, to trust Daniel or not. Intuition screamed danger, but despair was greater. He was her only hope. With trembling hands, she dialed his number, her heart pounding like a frantic drum. While waiting, she watched the black roses, feeling the threat, real and imminent, looming over her like a hungry crow. Daniel's calm and gentle voice greeted her on the other end of the line. Relief and a glimmer of hope amidst the terror. He would wait for her at a nearby cafe, a discreet, safe place. Isabella dressed hastily, the haste mixed with terror. As she left the apartment, a feeling of being watched invaded her, a cold gaze at the nape of her neck. She turned, looking for any suspicious movement, but saw no one. Paranoia? Or was someone actually following her? The cafe was empty, lit by a soft, cozy light. Daniel was waiting, smiling when he saw her. His dark eyes, however, carried genuine concern mixed with deep admiration. He welcomed her, his words calming her restless soul. He knew who was threatening her, knew the dark secrets of Ricardo's past. He promised to protect her, help her unravel the truth, find the answers she so desperately sought. As Daniel spoke, Isabella realized that he knew about Eduardo, Ricardo's brother, and about his morbid obsession with her. He revealed disturbing details of Eduardo's past, a violent past involved in shady businesses, with dangerous connections to powerful and influential people. A terrifying revelation which made the pieces of the puzzle fit together, forming a frightening picture. A shock wave ran through Isabella's body. The truth was worse than she could ever have imagined. She was in a web of lies and betrayals, and with each revelation the danger intensified. Suddenly, a black car stopped in front of the cafe. Imposing men in black suits quickly got out, one of them looking directly inside, his eyes meeting Isabella's. The atmosphere changed. The heavy silence replaced the confident conversation. Daniel took Isabella's hand, firm and secure. He stood up, ready to act. Escape seemed the only option. But would Daniel really be who he claimed to be? An ally or another disguised enemy? The truth, like the danger, was about to be revealed. Isabella's survival depended on a choice, to trust Daniel or to face the terror that surrounded her alone. The rain had stopped, but an even greater storm was approaching. About to explode, carrying with it the promise of a revelation that would forever change Isabella's life. A revelation that could lead her to life or to death. The rain had lessened, but the tension in the air was as thick as the dark clouds dissipating in the sky. Isabella, sitting at the cafe table with Daniel, felt a shiver run down her spine. The conversation flowed, but Daniel's gaze, though affectionate, carried a sobriety that made her uneasy. He spoke about Eduardo, Ricardo's brother, with frighteningly accurate knowledge, revealing dark details of the life of the man Isabella had always considered merely a rival. Details that left her chilled with fear. Eduardo was not just a resentful man. He was a criminal involved in illegal businesses, with dangerous connections that extended throughout the city. Daniel said he knew of a plan to silence Isabella forever, a plan orchestrated by Eduardo and his accomplices. Isabella, initially skeptical, felt an immense weight fall on her shoulders. Everything was beginning to make sense. The black roses, the anonymous threats, the constant feeling of being watched. Eduardo was behind it all, driven by a morbid passion and a thirst for revenge. Anger, a hot and furious flame, began to burn inside her, mixed with growing fear. In the midst of that tense conversation, a black car stopped abruptly in front of the cafe. Imposing men, dressed in black, emerged from the vehicle like shadows, their faces impassive, hiding sinister intentions. One of them, tall and corpulent, looked directly at the cafe window, his eyes meeting Isabella's. A shiver of horror ran through her body. It was a cold, calculating gaze full of a malice that would chill anyone. Daniel, with quick and decisive movements, pulled Isabella in front of him, shielding her with his own body. He dragged her out of the cafe, guiding her through a dark and narrow alley. The men's footsteps approached, echoing on the sidewalk like thunder. With each hurried step, the fear became more intense, more palpable. They ran without stopping, adrenaline rushing through their veins like a raging river. Isabella's heart pounded in her chest, a frantic rhythm that accompanied the sound of their footsteps and the approaching footsteps. They hid behind a dark and damp alley, full of garbage and rubble. The silence of the escape was broken only by their breathless breathing and the footsteps that, now, seemed more distant. But even so, the danger had not passed. The feeling of being watched as if they were under the implacable gaze of a predator persisted. Still breathless, leaning against a cold, damp wall, Daniel pulled Isabella close, his dark eyes full of concern. He whispered in her ear softly, enough for her to understand, "We need to get out of here, Isabella. Right now, they know we're here." And then, as Isabella prepared to run again, to face danger a second time, she noticed something that left her petrified. In the midst of the garbage and rubble, something shone in the dim light of the alley, a brooch in the shape of a black rose, identical to the one she had received, a brooch that only Ricardo possessed. Isabella's eyes widened, feeling a chill run down her spine. A single question echoed in her mind, a question that left her in a state of absolute shock. Daniel. Could Daniel also be involved? Could he be one of her executioners?